Welcome back to the deep dive. We take your sources, cut through the noise, and really zero in on what matters. Today, we're tackling one of those massive questions one humanity's asked forever: what actually happens after we die? We're doing a deep dive using Chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita. Our source is Akshara Brahma Yoga, the imperishable absolute and death. Our goal isn't just, reciting the text. It's to unpack it, see what the wisdom is, and figure out why it still matters so much to us right here, right now.
Exactly. And that's the thing, isn't it? This isn't dusty old philosophy. What the Gita shares here is, well, incredibly practical. It's like a guide for one of life's biggest, most certain transitions. It's really about getting ready, not just thinking about it theoretically.
Yeah, preparation. That feels key. Okay, so let's dive in. Right, picture this. You're at this critical point, facing the ultimate unknown. That's pretty much where Arjuna is in the Gita. He's heard all this deep spiritual stuff. His mind is just buzzing. He's got the kind of questions, honestly, many of us still wrestle with. So he turns to Krishna, his guide, and asks, okay, what is this Brahman, really? And the self you keep talking about, how does karma actually work? And the big one, what happens, like, at the moment of death? These aren't just intellectual questions, right? It's that deep human need to understand where we're headed.
Absolutely. And what's so interesting is Krishna's response. He doesn't launch into some, super abstract lecture. He's remarkably clear. Like, he's coming back to this idea of preparation. The text basically says point blank, how you live is practice for how you die. And how you die really does influence what comes next. There's a direct link.
Wow, how you live determines how you die. That's that's quite a statement. So if life is the preparation, how does the Gita define the main elements here? Like, what is Brahman in this context?
Good question. Because knowing these terms, it's not just vocabulary, right? It's about understanding existence itself. Krishna says Brahman is the imperishable, the supreme reality. Think of it like the unchanging foundation of everything, the source. Beyond all the temporary stuff we see.
Okay, the unchanging source.
And then there's the self, the Atman. That's your core essence. It's eternal, unchanging, and completely separate from your body, your thoughts, your feelings, all the temporary bits. Getting that distinction is really, really important for understanding what happens after death.
So Brahman is the ultimate reality. The self is our eternal essence. Got it. But then karma. We hear that word a lot. How does it fit in, especially with birth and death?
Right. And karma here, it's maybe a bit more nuanced than just good versus bad. The Gita talks about it as this complex law of action and reaction. Every action, especially the intention behind it, creates these subtle imprints. And those imprints shape your future experiences, potentially leading to another birth. Or, if you understand it, helping you get off the cycle. It's the engine driving birth and death.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, here's where it gets really fascinating and maybe the most potent takeaway for you listening. Krishna says something quite profound. Those who remember me at the time of death attain me. There is no doubt about it. The implication is huge. That very last thought, where your mind settles as you leave the body, that determines your destination.
Exactly. It's not some random thought popping into your head. It's presented as the culmination, the sum total of where you've consistently placed your attention throughout life. Which really brings up a question for all of us, doesn't it? What are we actually cultivating in our minds day to day? What's our default mental space?
Yeah.
Because that's likely what surfaces in that critical final moment.
Yeah, it makes you think about how much time we spend worrying about, well, trivial things, doesn't it? If that last thought matters so much, maybe we should all practice a bit more mental hygiene. But okay, seriously, if that's the aim, remembering the divine at the end, how does the Gita actually teach us to prepare for that? How do we do it?
Right, because it's not just about hoping for a lucky last thought. It's about cultivating a state of being. Krishna gives a pretty clear path. With a steady mind, controlled breath, devotion, and focus on the divine. That's how the yogi, the practitioner, consciously leaves the body and merges with the divine, according to the text. You see, it's not about being afraid of death. It's about seeing life itself as the training ground. Death then becomes less of an end and more like a doorway.
A doorway.
And if you go through that doorway consciously remembering the divine, the teaching says you can actually step beyond the whole birth-death cycle.
Conscious departure. Okay, so Krishna then talks about two paths the soul can take after death. There's the path of light, Uttarayana, heading towards liberation, and the path of darkness, Dakshinayana, which leads back to rebirth. Now, someone hearing this for the first time might think, is this about dying in the summer versus winter or something astrological? What's the real meaning here?
That's a really important clarification. Yes, ancient traditions sometimes link these terms to the sun's apparent path, north or south. But the Gita uses it much more symbolically. It's about your inner state, not the calendar or the stars.
Ah, okay.
These paths represent fundamental states of consciousness at the time of death. The path of light means dying with wisdom, with clarity, with a strong connection to that divine reality. That leads out of the cycle. The path of darkness, on the other hand, suggests dying with a mind still caught up in attachments, desires, confusion, ignorance. And that state, well, that leads back into rebirth. It's about the quality of your awareness.
Right, the quality of awareness, not the time of year. That makes a huge difference. Ultimately, though, the Gita seems to circle back to something presented as maybe the most direct route: devotion. Krishna famously says, "Fix your mind on me, be devoted, surrender, you shall surely come to me."
And the real power of that message, I think, is how accessible it makes it. You don't necessarily need to be a master philosopher or know every single scripture inside out. The text suggests that if you can just remember the divine Krishna, or whatever concept of ultimate reality works for you, with genuine love and focus, especially at that final moment, that can be enough. It sort of democratizes liberation in a way.
It makes it available to everyone, regardless of their background or knowledge.
That seems to be the core message, yes.
Okay, so let's try and distill this down. For you listening, what are the absolute key takeaways from Chapter 8 based on our source? Let's list them out.
Good idea.
1. What you focus on, especially at the very end, profoundly shapes what comes next, either another birth or freedom from the cycle. It's the result of your life's focus.
That final thought is critical.
2. Brahman is the ultimate unchanging reality. It exists beyond birth, death, beyond everything temporary. Knowing this gives perspective.
Right. The eternal backdrop.
3. Yourself, the Atman, is your own eternal essence. It's distinct from your body and mind, which are temporary. That gives you a stable sense of identity.
Absolutely crucial distinction.
4. Those two paths after death, light and darkness. They aren't literal roads, but states of consciousness determining liberation or rebirth.
Yes, inner states, not outer circumstances.
And 5. Devotion, which means constant remembrance, focused attention, surrendering to that higher reality, is presented as the most powerful and accessible way to achieve transcendence.
That sums it up well. Brings it all back to that loving focus.
So this whole deep dive, it really shifts the perspective, doesn't it? Death isn't framed as the enemy. Maybe forgetfulness or just lack of awareness is the real issue the Gita points to.
That's a great way to put it.
It encourages us to live more consciously, maybe with less anxiety about the end, and to approach death with that cultivated devotion rather than fear.
Live with awareness.
And ultimately, it really leaves you with a question to ponder. What are you consistently filling your mind with every day? Because, as the text suggests, that accumulation will be your final thought one day. May it be peace, may it be love, may it be a deep sense of connection to something greater.
A powerful thought to end on.
Indeed. In our next deep dive, we'll jump into Chapter 9 of the Gita fascinating stuff called the Royal Knowledge and Royal Secret. Until then, try to live consciously. And perhaps think about how to die consciously. And remember the core message: you are eternal.